Good evening, good evening, good evening. A Better You Lifestyle. And I'm your host, Willie A. Price. Willie A. Price Speaks. And tonight is A Better You Lifestyle. We are going to talk about understanding your you tonight. And I actually started out we're going to talk about surrounding yourself with better, which is the subject for tonight. But I also want to talk about a story I was just listening to. That's why I was a little bit late coming on, because I was listening to a story on a situation, and this is actually the second story of its kind that has taken place. What I got on my face here? Is that my face? Okay. So I really want to talk about a story I was just listening to as well. But again, my name is Willie A. Price. Willie A. Price Speaks. Tonight is Understanding Your You. And if you watch the show every Sunday at 8 o'clock, we do a different show. The first Sunday of every month, we do Understanding Your You. The second Sunday is A Mother's Love, where we talk about how we can work with our children to help them to create a better lifestyle for themselves. Our third week is Financially You, where we talk about finances, savings, budgeting, entrepreneurship, real estate investing, stocks and bonds, cryptocurrency, whatever you want to talk about, that's what we talk about. But the goal is to show you how to create 3 to 5 ways to create stream of income for yourself, to create a better you lifestyle for yourself. Goes with savings and everything else that goes along with it, a job, whatever the case may be, whatever it is you need to become more successful. Then our fourth week, excuse me, our fourth week is Making Your House Your Home. And with Making Your House Your Home is all about real estate, how to buy a home, sell a home, maintain a home, inspect a home. We do all aspects of real estate, lead, asbestos, talk about different subjects. We just talk about things that are going to make a home better for you, whether it's a rental property, whether it's a home that you're living in, whether it's a home that you're planning to buy, whatever the case may be. That is the week that we talk about real estate. On our fifth Sundays, which is what we just actually had, a fifth Sunday, on our fifth Sundays is a grab bag. We talk about anything, whatever subjects come up, whatever things going on in the community, or the public or in the media, like tonight we're going to talk about. And so that's what we do on our fifth Sunday. But tonight is Understanding Your You. And Understanding Your You is what we're going to talk about. And what tonight is, we're going to talk about surrounding yourself with better. Surrounding yourself with better, which means who's in your circle? Who are you surrounded by? And before I get into that, I want to talk about a story that I was just listening to. I actually read a story earlier today. I was reading either today or yesterday. I was reading a story about relationships and how mental health. And it's funny, I actually was on a show. I do a show on Monday nights called The Counselor's Corner. And every Monday night we do a show. And this past Monday, in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about it, but this past Monday in particular, we talked about, and the previous week, about mental illness and how mental illness affects relationships. And during that show, we were talking about, people were talking about mental illness, and they were talking about things like, people acting out and showing mental health issues and mental illness. But the thing is, I was saying on that show, I said people who have gone through a broken heart, that's a sign of mental illness. That's a mental effect on your brain as well. Someone who has a broken heart, or someone who went through a bad relationship, someone who's been abused in a relationship, all those things can create mental health issues with you. So you have to really, and we were talking about, you have to really be careful about who you get involved in relationships with. Because as you get older, think about it, when a person is younger, they may have been through a few things, 15, 20, 25 years old, been through a few things and may have seen a few things, may have some abuses, some broken hearts, or a broken heart or whatever. But most of the people, especially on this group that I speak to on Monday nights, Most of those people are in their 40s, late 30s and 40s and 50 years old, and some even older than that. So you think about, you've gone through maybe 20 or 30 years of some type of a mental issue, a mental abuse, mistreatment, or something that left a lasting effect on your mind that has been bothering you, that has taken its toll and taken a part of your life and just took control of your life. And I actually went through something like that. So I know fact how mental health and mental illness can affect you. Because I share on the show about how I went through a divorce. And when I went through my divorce, I met someone after my divorce. And because of all I went through in my divorce and in that relationship, when I met this person was totally different from my ex. So I kind of latched onto this person because I was really going through a lot of depression. I was going through depression when I went through my divorce and all the things I gave up, during that time. And so I was going through a little depression. So when I met this person, they actually helped me to come out of that. But at the same time, they saw that vulnerability in me and they took advantage of it. And for 2.5 years, I went through hell. I went through hell. And when I say I really had some mental health issues that I didn't know how to address, and I have a mental health degree. I have a degree in mental health. I worked in mental health for over 10 years. And I was being affected because I didn't know I was trying to, I guess, not diagnose, but trying to basically treat myself. And so as a result of that, I allowed myself to go through a lot of things, a lot of depression, a lot of heartache and headaches, and a lot of things that I really shouldn't have. And even though I was going through it, I knew I shouldn't have gone through it. And I knew that I shouldn't have put up with it. Oh, excuse me. I'm gonna shut that down because I want to watch the rest of that video. But I went through a lot. And so when I thought about that, you start thinking about things that you want to do and things you should have done and how you should have acted and what, just things go through your mind, because sometimes you get to a point where you just give up and you're angry, you're hurt, you're depressed, you have all these different emotions going. And that's what mental health does. When your mental health is affected, whether it's in a relationship or broken heart or loss of a job or loss of income or whatever the case may be, it affects your mental health. And so I was listening to these stories, and I'm going to talk about the two stories I was listening to. The first story I was listening to was a relationship story where this young man, he killed his daughter's mother and then took the two, I think baby was maybe a year old. He took the 1-year-old baby and threw it off the bridge into the water, into the ocean, to the lake or whatever he threw it into. He threw it into a body of water and killed the baby, and then turned himself in to the police. The second story, which is the story I was just listening to, and I still have to listen to the rest of it, but it really caught my attention because they were talking about mental health and mental illness and how people put a lot of things on that. But the thing is, people do things, and it could be, we all have mental health issues. We all go through mental problems sometimes, but when you meet people, you can sometimes sense that something's going on with that person, and that's where the surround yourself with better comes into place. Sometimes we get to the point where we want somebody, just to have somebody in our lives, because we don't want to be lonely. We don't want people to think that we can't find anybody. We've been so used to the person that we just don't want to let them go. I mean, you become accustomed to them. So, I mean, there's so many reasons why we allow ourselves to do some of the things that we do in relationships and be in these relationships that we know aren't good for us, that we know are not beneficial for us. And we allow ourselves to stay in these relationships. And we see signs and we see behaviors that we know can be problematic, that we know we really don't want to deal with, but we stay in the relationship anyways. And so I was listening to these two stories, and then the one story I was listening to today where the young man was at his apartment building. I guess he lived with the girl. Apparently they lived together. And whatever reason he was going through, he was saying that he was getting tired of her doing the things or saying whatever she was saying to him. And so he shot and killed her out in front of their apartment building. And this is in Brownsville, Wisconsin. Brownsville, Wisconsin, where he went out in front of the apartment building and shot and killed his son's mother right out in front of the apartment building. And a white gentleman attempted to come and help and stop him, and he shot and killed the gentleman as well. So he killed the daughter's mother, he killed his son's mother, then he killed the neighbor, the white neighbor who came and approached him. And I say white neighbor because later a black gentleman came also after he went into the house. And he went into the house, went back into the apartment building, and where his son was in the house. His 2-year-old son was inside the house. And when the police arrived, before the police arrived, he started shooting at a black man that came out to help the white man and the daughter and the son's mother. And he shot at that man as well and ended up hitting that man in the foot and hitting him in the ankle or something in the foot area. And so when the police came, he shot at the police as well. And he ended up going on Facebook and making a Facebook Live talking about not so much why he did what he did, but the fact that the girl was getting on his nerves, that the girl was always complaining and always, putting him down for things and all these things that the young lady was doing. And this, I guess this was his way of justifying what he did, which was taking her life. And then at the end, from what I'm understanding, I just made it. I'm not at the end of the video yet, but what I'm understanding is that at the end, he kept, and they showed the video. He was talking. He was doing a Facebook Live. He's yelling out the window, telling the police to go get the son's grandparents so they can come and get the little boy before he kills himself or before the police kills him, because he's saying he didn't want to take his own life. He wanted the police to kill him. And so he started shooting at them and trying to get them to shoot back. And apparently they didn't shoot back. Eventually, the young man ended up taking his own life. And during the video, he took like a tour, had the little boy watching television, and then he went into another room and he laid out his clothes that he wanted to be buried in for his funeral. So I mean, there was a lot of things going on in this video, but it made me think and it made me wonder, when we get into relationships, sometimes we see signs, we see things that we know that should be a red flag. We see things that we know should be a red flag, and we try to ignore them, or we try to blow them off and say, well, that's just the way he is, and you may have been dealing with that person for a long time. And so you kind of accept that behavior that they're displaying. You say, well, that's just the way he is. Sometimes he gets upset, sometimes he yells and, slams and breaks a few things. But those are the red flags that should be warning you that is a situation that you should not be in. Surrounding yourself with better doesn't mean just the people who you're friends with. Doesn't mean the people who you do business with. Doesn't mean the people who you associate with when you go out in public. Sometimes surrounding yourself with better means surrounding yourself in a relationship with someone who's going to be evenly on keel with you. Someone who you feel comfortable around, whether they're upset, not upset, happy, sad, whatever the case may be. That's the kind of person that you want to surround yourself with. And so it made me wonder, and like I said, I don't know any of these people and these stories, but it makes you wonder what signs, because they're all claiming mental health now, and there was some mental health issue. But apparently, if both stories are claiming mental health issue, that means someone or several persons had to have seen something displayed that made you realize that there were some issues going on with these young men and other young men who have done the same thing, and people who are out doing the same thing all over the world. There had to be some signs that were apparent, that people saw and people ignored, because of course they ignored them because you have the situations that you have. It got to a point where it became volatile and fatal for the people who were involved with that person, who were surrounded by that person. So it makes you wonder, why do we stay in these situations when we know that there's some issues, that we know that that person has tendencies to be violent, that that person has tendencies to want to yell and scream and hit and break things, and or whatever the case may be. And that can be a guy or a girl, because you have women that do the same thing. You have women that will get upset at the man and they'll hit him. You know, they'll slap him, they'll throw something at him. Those are mental health issues. Those are mental issues that makes a person feel whatever they feel, that's okay. That's acceptable behavior because I was mad. And you'll hear the person say later, well, I did that because I was mad, or I did that because I was hurt. I did that because of what you said, or I did that because of what you were doing, because you looked at another woman or you looked at another man. So I did this because of something that you provoked in my mind that warranted me being physically violent towards you. Surround yourself with better. We have to learn that it's okay to be single. It's okay to be alone and get to know yourself and find out what it is you want. And it took me 2.5 years. It took me 2.5 years to figure that out. And I mean, it didn't take me to figure it out. I knew it. It's just I didn't want to accept being alone, because I kept asking the question, why? And that's something that I learned throughout the situation that I went through, is that when you continue to ask the question, why, in a relationship, why did a person leave you? Why did they go to someone else? Why did they cheat on you? Why did they hit you? When you start asking that question, why, you are never going to let that relationship go. You are never, because there's always going to be another why. No matter what the answer is or whatever you figure out about that situation, no matter what it is, whenever you in that situation and you know it's a bad situation and you want to get out of it, and you keep asking yourself, why? Well, why can't we work it out? Or why are you cheating on me? Or why are you acting the way you do? Or why did you hit me? When you stop asking why and say, hey, this is what it is. This is not how I want it to be. I'm out of here. Once you stop asking why, that's when you'll let that relationship go. That's when surround yourself either by yourself, or you'll start to surround yourself with people who you know are going to be more beneficial to you, who are going to be more of on your side, more of what you're gravitating towards or wherever you're trying to develop to. But as long as you continue to ask yourself why in that relationship, and like I said, I went through it for a while. Because I kept asking the question, why? Well, why are you this? And why is she this? And why? And I kept asking why. And the more I kept asking why, it made me keep wanting to be in touch with her, and try to show her, that, okay, well, this is why you did this, but so I can be like this, or, well, you don't have to go that way because I can do this, because, why not let me do this? And why not, and I kept asking all these whys. And the more I kept asking why, the more I couldn't let go. And then once I stopped asking why, once I kept saying, well, why this, instead of saying, and I started saying, you know what? It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter that they went somebody else and now they want to come back. I don't want them back. I don't want to go through this roller coaster of a relationship. I don't want someone who doesn't value what I have to offer. When I started looking at things that way, it was easy for me to cut that person off and walk off. And then it was easy for me to be around other people. And then my tolerance level for nonsense became very low, because now I started to look at who I was. And I talk about my 4 W's to success: understanding who you are, where you're trying to go, what is it going to take for you to get there, and why are you willing to commit to it. And the first key thing is understanding who you are. And once I started to re-examine who I was, in my situation after my divorce, and where I wanted to go following my divorce, and what was it going to take for me to get there, and why I was willing to commit to that goal, all the things started to fall into place. All the things that I wasn't doing for 2.5 years, almost 3 years, all the things I wasn't doing, I started doing. I started doing because I understood who I was and where I wanted to go. And where I wanted to go didn't include the whys. Why can't you come with me? Why can't you see the things I'm trying to do? Why can't you accept me for who I am? There was no more whys in that. Okay, it was all about me, understanding who I am. And when you understand who you are, you'll understand that no one can make you happy. People say, I hear people say, I'm looking for someone that's going to make me happy. No one can ever make you happy, because there's always going to be something that they're going to do that is going to rub you the wrong way. It may be a big issue, maybe a small issue, but there's always going to be something that's not going to work out. So when people say, I want somebody who's going to make me happy, you already know they're not ready for a relationship. But when you have a person that's happy with themselves, where they can sit in a room and be at home or wherever the case may be and be by themselves and enjoy their own company. When you can enjoy your own company and don't feel like you have to be in a room full of people, you don't have to be out socialized, you have to be the center of attention. You don't have to, you don't have to be surrounded. You can enjoy yourself. When you feel that you can enjoy yourself and you know who you are and you walk into that room with confidence, and you can still go out and socialize, but it's not so demanding that you have to be around other people in order to be happy with yourself. Understanding who you are, understanding what makes you happy, what brings you joy, what brings you satisfaction, what brings you peace of mind, all those things, understanding who you are is the key to you being a happy person. Then when you meet someone, if that person doesn't bring whatever it is if they're not happy with themselves, then they're going to be looking for you to do things to make them happy. So then you already know it's not going to work out. Again, you're looking at who you're surrounding yourself with. And a lot of times we don't. And as a matter of fact, I need to read something because it just reminded me of something that I wanted to read that I was looking at earlier today. And I want to read this because it just really hit home with me. And it was a post that somebody had posted, and it was saying, before you get married, you should do these things with your partner. But also, before you even think about getting married, once you get into a serious relationship where you're talking about being committed to this person, that's when you should start having this conversation. This is when you should start having that conversation. You don't want to wait until the person proposes to you or you start talking about getting married. And this is 6, 7, 8 months, 10, 11 months or a year into the relationship. Now you want to start having these conversations. Once you realize that this person is somebody that you think you're going to be in a committed relationship or a long-term relationship with, you should start asking or having discussing, and I'm just going to read off some of these topics. And it says, before you get married, but not so much before you get married. Once you decide that you want to be in a serious relationship with that person, and some of these things are just if you're with people and you're creating a circle, you're surrounding yourself with better. You might want to discuss, some of these things. And I'm going to go into relationships for this because it fits more relationships. Some of the things you should be discussing with that person once you get into a serious relationship. And you shouldn't be jumping up, moving in together. That's the other thing. You shouldn't be jumping up, moving in together, especially not in the first 3 to 5 months. If he's trying to move in or she's trying to move in the first 3 to 5 months of that relationship, you don't know each other. So already know there's going to be some issues because now you got to change your whole mindset to living under a roof with someone who's basically a stranger to you. But it talks about before you get married, you should be discussing your bills, I'm just going to read what they have here, but just some of the topics they have here. You should be talking about parenting styles. And I mean, that could be something if you have kids, if you both have kids, How are you going to relate? How are you going to relate to his kids? And how is he going to relate to your kids? A lot of times the woman will have kids and the man will have kids. And the woman, of course, is going to expect him to treat her kids a certain way. But then she doesn't want anything to do with his kids and his, in his situation. So then now you're seeing a selfishness that also is going to create a problem, because now when he wants to go see his kids, there's going to be an issue. So I mean, there's so many things that's going on with that. If the other parent is in the picture with the child, so now the baby father wanting to come see his kids, or your baby's mother wanting you to go see his kids. So those are things that you need to discuss while you're in that relationship. So that way, as that relationship develops and it becomes more and more serious, and you're looking at a true commitment and possibly marriage, these are things you need to discuss before you start talking about getting married. Credit. What is your credit? How are you guys on religion? Are you both religious? Are you both not religious? Are you semi-religious? Whatever the case may be, you need to talk about religious. How do you deal with family? Are you close with your family? Are you not close with your family? Is it an issue if you're close with your family or if you're not close with your family? Some people will not date a man or a woman if she's not close or he's not close with their family or their relatives. Now, see, some people may have an issue with that. I'm not close with my family. As a matter of fact, I just talked to my mother tonight. I'll call my mother periodically, but I'm not close with my mother or my family. And that's because I went through a lot of things growing up. And I always tell people, I share on my shows, on the different shows I talk on, growing up, I moved out when I was 16 years old. So for me, there's a whole lot of things that went on that made me not very close with my family. But that doesn't mean I don't care about them, not in love. But sometimes you can love people better from a distance. And so that's what I found in my situation with my family. What else do we have here? What beliefs will be instilled in the children if you have children, or if you're working with her children? Or is it a situation where you're dating a person and she's telling you, well, you can interact with my children, but I don't want you telling my children what to do. I don't want you correcting my children. I'm the mother. You're not their father. They have a father. That can be a problem. That could be a problem. So you need to look at, and I'm going to use this again. I'm going to talk about this again next month when we talk about a mother's love, raising kids, and how we're going to raise our kids. I'm going to write some notes on this and talk about this. Talk about any childhood traumas. Have you been through some? Now, those are real issues that you need to discuss definitely before you start talking about getting married. Now, you may not bring it up when you're first dating or like once you start to get serious, but if you may see some red flags pop up, and you may want to ask them a question about, okay, these are some of the things I'm seeing, some of the behaviors I'm seeing, or sometimes when we get upset, you do these things. What's causing that? What can I do? Or what have you gone through that I don't end up bringing back that memory? So, I mean, there's a discussion that takes place. People don't have discussions. And if all you're doing in that relationship is going out and having sex and going out and having sex and going out and having sex, but you can't have a conversation with that person, then you're not in a serious relationship, and you're not really in a relationship. You're in a situation, and you're basically just dealing with each other for a certain need, but there's no true commitment, no serious commitment to that relationship. Where are we here? Sexual expectations before you get married. That is really a key. You don't want to get married to a person and find yourself wanting to go cheat or be with somebody else, or wishing you never married them 3, 4, 5 months into the marriage, because you find out that your spouse is not willing to make sure that you are satisfied sexually. And you have to talk about those things, and you need to talk about those things before you get married, while you're in that relationship, while you're building whatever that relationship is, what your likes are, what your dislikes are, what you're willing to try, what you aren't willing to try. You need to talk about those things and then see if you guys are on the same page. Because if you are, either side of that relationship is dissatisfied sexually, that could be a major problem in that relationship. Surrounding yourself with better. Surrounding yourself with better doesn't mean just the people outside, your co-workers and your friends and family. That means that person who you're right there in that relationship with, who you're in the relationship with. So surrounding yourself with better. What else we have here? Financial expectations, health history, mental health history, dream home and career, education, political views, and whatever else comes to mind. And I skipped over a couple of the situations that they had on here because, like I said, I'm going to actually put this down and I'm going to screenshot it and use it on the screen week because I'm going to talk about this next week with a mother's love. So I'm going to talk about some of these subjects. But when I read that, do you think that some of these things were seen in those relationships? It could have been financial situation. It could have been a sexual situation. It could have been employment situation. There could have been mental health situation. There could have been some things going on in that relationship that people saw that was going on with both of those young men that end up killing those women and those babies, well, the baby and the other persons, but killing people. People saw red flags and nobody did anything about it. Nobody walked away. And sometimes you find people are in situations where they see the flags, they ignore the flags, and then by the time the flags become so apparent, they're afraid to leave. They're afraid to leave that situation. They're afraid to move out of that circle and move to another circle for the fear that the person may stalk them, kill them, harass them, break out their car windows, attack them. I mean, you have so many crazy things going on in this world. You don't know how people are going to respond sometimes. But the thing is, by ignoring and prolonging that relationship, and now that person, and you have to think about it, the longer you prolong that relationship, the longer you stay in that relationship, the more that person who has that mental issue, that issue, that violent tendencies or whatever it is, whatever actions they've been doing that you settle for and you continue to stay in that relationship for, the longer you stay in that relationship, allowing those flags to raise, the more comfortable that person is going to get with you. And the more dependent they're going to be on keeping you in their life. The sooner you end that, the sooner you have the possibility of getting away and getting to a safer situation. By staying in that situation and accepting and ignoring and excusing and all the different things you may do because of behavior that you see that does not work for you, does not, and you want to work it out and I can make them change and I can make it better. If you're dealing with somebody 30, 40 years old, 50 years old, there's not much change that's going to happen in that relationship. That person is basically set in their ways. People will compromise and people will dumb down some things. If they're realistic and rational people, not irrational, rational people. I have to get that right because there's a lot of irrational people out there. But if they're a rational person, that rational person will sometimes say, okay, if I want to be in this relationship with this person, I know she doesn't like this behavior or he doesn't like this type of situation or whatever the case may be, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try not to do that. And I'll let her know that I realize this is a situation. I'll let him know I realize it's a situation. And I'm going to try my best not to make it an issue in our relationship. Conversation works wonders in life and relationships in general. Anything you do, if you can have a conversation about it and talk about it, not only do you hear what you're saying, now you've put it out there so that person can hear what you're saying. And that person's either going to appreciate what you're saying or they're going to do what? They're going to act out. And if they act out based on your sharing your feelings and your thoughts and your ideas with them, and they act out in a negative response to it, again, another red flag. You need to surround yourself with something better. So I wanted to talk about some other stuff. I'm not going to talk about those other things because I really want to just kind of talk about this tonight. But tonight's topic was surround yourself with better. I think I gave you a lot to think about. understanding you're you, being happy with yourself first before you can be happy with anybody else. And no one can make you happy. I always say that. I always repeat that because people always say, I'm looking for somebody to make me happy. Somebody's going to make me happy. I'm not looking for it. I know nobody can make me happy, but I want somebody that can be a part of my happiness. Be a part of my happiness, share in the things that I'm doing, be supportive of what I'm doing, and I can support what they're doing, and we keep each other encouraged and we support each other. And it doesn't always have to be financially. It could just be that emotional support. You know, when that person is going through something, or they're being they're going to an event and you're to support them, or they're being honored and you're there to support them, or they're going to work and they got a promotion. I mean, whatever the case may be, you're being that biggest cheerleader in that relationship for your partner. Sometimes that goes a lot further than buying a purse or, you know, taking to an expensive restaurant. Sometimes those things are good too. But the thing is, at the end of the day, if you can't have a conversation with that person that you're in a relationship with, you're not in a relationship. Surround yourself with better. And it all starts with you having a conversation with yourself and with that partner. Again, my name is Willie A. Price. Willie A. Price Speaks. You guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next Sunday. We're going to do A Mother's Love, and I'm going to touch on these subjects that I talked about earlier, and I'm also going to talk about some other subjects that tie into this. But we're going to talk about a mother's love, raising our children, and preparing our children for success. Have a blessed night, and I will see you guys next week.